So I recently came across the subject of culture and how we interact with each other, the perceptions of that interaction, and what comes of that interaction. Then it got me thinking a little more. What do we really get of that interaction? Then I thought of the things I notice as an Asian American. When I put the two together, interaction and culture, the idea of stereotypes came up, particularly Asian stereotypes. Because I'm Asian and all. We as people revert back to things we may generalize people as when we first meet them, so I thought stereotypes were the appropriate reference. Now I'm sure you're thinking, Asian? Stereotype? Where are you going with this? Where we're going, we don't need roads. But I'm just kidding. But really though, we all have the thoughts of stereotype, and those thoughts can aid in shaping our perceptions of each other, whether it's good or bad. Now what I'm going to do is go about the different types of stereotypes there are with Asians. And there are quite a few. One being the things Asians are supposed to be good and or bad at. Another is stereotypical careers that Asians have. And the last one is quote-unquote delicacies. Let's start with our basic means of transportation. We live in Houston. We can't get around like people in the city like, let's say, New York, where public transit is widely available. Driving is a must here. If you've ever been down Bel Air, you know where I'm going with this. Asians cannot drive. We can call this Asian drivers no survivors. Being active is also important to a lot of people, but when it comes to Asians, that's not necessarily the case. Athletics are definitely not their forte, but they aren't necessarily bad at it. Look at the overwhelming amount of pro-Asian athletes there are. And Jeremy Lin, Yao Ming, Manny Pacquiao. That's it, everybody else is pretty much a mathlete. Now let's move on to things that we as Asians are all inherently good at. When you think of Asians, you generally think of polynomials, math. We're supposed to be great at it, and can factor your function to the square root of the power of e and use the quadratic equation to solve the mysteries of the universe. That alone should tell you is a total stereotype, because I had no idea what I just talked about. Sticking to the topic of academics, most of us didn't like to study. We wanted to spend our time doing fun things. In the case of your studious Asian friend, it was a little different. Facebook meant face the book and study. That song 99 Problems meant 99 problems that you have to solve, and you can go to any school as long as it's medical school. Now we'd like to all have a Bruce Lee in our home. Who would need a gun when you have moves as fast as lightning, right? Asians and karate are so synonymous that if anything were to go down, the Asian must know karate, right? Wrong. Most of us can't even stomach a confrontation, let alone lay the smack. Moving right along, stereotypes can go past what Asians are perceived to be good and bad at. It extends to careers, one career being the ever-famous career of a doctor. This is the one where hours of studying, spelling bees, math decathlons, and science fair reduce over the years. We're all destined to become doctors, except myself, of course. Next on the list would be the creative mind of an engineer. Remember those mathletes I spoke of earlier? Those are the stars of this show. The geometric equations, physics, and trigonometry logged in over the years have created this stereotype and make for the perfect Asian engineer. We can move to another type of medical career that mainly encompasses my particular ethnicity. A career stereotype that comes up with Filipinos is nursing. Women and Filipino equals nurse. That's just how it works. If you know a Filipino or Filipinos, chances are somebody is a nurse. So keep a Filipino in your life, might save a life. We can stick on the subject of my people and throw in the career of entertainer. Filipinos have recently gained the reputation of being entertainers due to people like Bruno Mars and Apple to App of the Black Eyed Peas, who have set the bar ridiculously high. These people have brought about the idea that all Filipinos have the ability to sing, dance, and act. Let me prove you wrong. Now moving back to our favorite subject of arithmetic, there's the next career of a banker or accountant. Who needs extracurricular activities and time to go out and play? Not us. It's all about the diffusion equation, quadratic equation, and the binary logarithms. The math that makes the world go round is what's most important. The last one that I'll throw out there doesn't even have to do with math or health. It's all about the hair salon or nail salon. Does it sound familiar? Honey, what you like I do for you. Next time I do your nail, pretty lady. If so, you can understand why this has been thrown in the mix. So with the stereotypes listed, it gives an idea of how people can be perceived when first interacting with each other. It's a type of perception that we all have one way or another. Obviously some funnier than others. And that brings us to Asian delicacies like dog. In America, a dog is a pet. In Asia, a dog is a meal. And you can... Rice is also not the only dish in Asia. Yes, there are abundant amounts of rice, and it's pretty much used as a staple for mostly all dishes. But it's not the only source of food. Though I'm sure there are people who really wouldn't mind eating rice all day, or using it to fix their phones. One last thing I've heard in terms of delicacies of Asia are people like to eat things that are alive. That I disagree with. I'm not very fond of the thought of eating something that can suffocate me by getting stuck in my throat, because it's still alive. Hence the moving octopus on the plate. Asians in this perspective of stereotype give a whole different kind of outlook on how not all fall within all the stereotypes listed. Though some may be true, more times than I'd like to admit, the majority don't eat dogs, are not crazy dictators, and a fair amount of us are able to drive responsibly. Lastly, we've discussed all the types of stereotypes that follow us Asians high and near. We discussed the things Asians are supposed to be good at and bad at, stereotypical careers that they have, and Asian quote-unquote delicacies. Overall, perception by the way of stereotype is probably one of the more least effective ways of intercultural and interpersonal communication.